about the financial aid process. We would like for you to critically analyze and assess your financial choices, organize yourselves, and make a plan as you're navigating the transfer process. So with that said, I would like to let you know that all of our webinars will be recorded. You will be able to access the recordings on our top website in a couple days. If you have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A or the raise hand function located down in the menu bar. And we do have staff available to answer questions throughout the presentation. So Kim, at this time, if you can share your screen, please. All right. Okay, so at this time, we're ready to welcome our student panel. And let's start with Danny.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Danny. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a fourth year. This is my second year at Davis. I transferred from Pasadena City College in 2019. My majors are psychology and anthropology. What else? The financial aid I receive is federal direct unsubsidized loan, but in the past I did receive the middle class scholarship. And then let's see, something that I didn't know before about financial aid that I know now is that they can be very, very helpful. At least in my personal experience, when I got my loan, they really walked me through the process of like learning the information about the loan, like really important things about this loan. They had me go through like this kind of like a workshop, going through all the details of the loan and just really helping me understand it and what I was getting myself into. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Alyssa. I use she and they pronouns. I'm also a fourth year transfer in my second year at Davis. I'm a wildlife fish conservation bio major, and I have a double minor in environmental policy analysis and planning, as well as professional writing. I transferred from Solano in 2019, like Danny. So I receive several different forms of financial aid. I have the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan, and I'll post a little link in the chat if anybody wants to check out exactly what that is. And I also have the Pell Grant, and I had a subsidized loan last year, and I receive work study as well. So one thing that I wish I knew when I came to Davis about financial aid was just kind of a little bit more about how loans worked, because I hadn't taken a loan out for community college. I was able to pay for that out of pocket. So learning about those loans and the different forms they have and how I can use them really, really helped for me. Just kind of getting that more background information.
Hey everyone, so my name is Thomas. I'm a fourth year biochemical engineer. I use he, him pronouns. So this would be my second year here. And so to diversify some of the financial aid available, I've opted to show you some of the internal funding opportunities. And so you'll often hear like stipends, fellowships, of course, scholarships, right? And just to showcase some of those fellowships that I've received, working with the Undergraduate Research Center as an undergraduate research ambassador, there's an opportunity for funding there, as well as working with the Internship Center and Career and Center, I'm sorry. Ooh, we too. There's a fellowship in which you can inquire about the educational opportunity and enrichment. And so one of the key things that I've kept in the back of my mind when I transferred here is the minimum UC Davis GPA being a 3.25 for scholarships. And if that's something that you're looking forward to doing in your time here at a UC, that's definitely something you should keep aware of.
Hello. I'd first like to apologize about my audio. I'm unfortunately having a lot of technical issues. But my name is Andres Alonso Zarate. Pronouns he, his, him. I'm a fourth year actually, and I transferred from U College in Oroville. I'm a cell biology major. The financial aid I'm currently receiving is in the forms of like grants and scholarships. Specifically, I have a Cal Grant, a university grant, and I have the Frank MacArthur Modoc Scholarship, as well as the Miguel Velez Scholarship. as well as a stipend from the AB 540 and Document Center as part of a paid internship. And something I did know about financial aid is just how much money is available, especially at the undergraduate level. I know it's mentioned a lot and it's almost a cliche at this point, but I was a bit skeptical until I actually had firsthand experience with it. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, students. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and open up the space for question and answer. So again, you have two options. You can raise your hand, use the raise your hand feature so we can unmute you to ask your question, or you can also use the Q&A to type in your questions. I'll give you, oh, we do have one question in here. The question is, I see Avenue E listed. Does anyone have any information and insight about the program Avenue B? I guess.
Yeah, that'd be tailored towards me. I am aware it's a newer program. I just Googled Avenue B. There's our contacts there. Unfortunately, because I'm on the engineering side of things, I don't know too much about it. I do recommend reaching out to the staff there. And
actually, if I can ask Kim to chime in real quick, because she has been working very closely with the Avenue B program.
Hello, everyone. Avenue B is a new support program. It's a sister program to Avenue E, and it is for students interested in the College of Biological Science majors from select partner colleges in Northern California. I will drop the link to their website in the chat for more information. I can also drop in the contact information for the director, Alyssa Arnold. She's very welcoming and super easy to talk to. So definitely, if you're interested in applying for the program, definitely send her an email.
Okay, so the next question is, which is cheaper, apartments or living on campus?
So I can take this one. I lived off campus last year. I'm currently back at home. But it's totally dependent on where you want to live. Our on-campus apartments for transfer students are just going to be West Village on Green, I believe is what they call it. And that can depend, I think it's about 800 to about 1200, depending on if you share a room or if you have a single. And then there's off-campus apartments, which can be like, if you have a living room space, I've seen them go down to like 250. Or if you share a room, I shared a room in an apartment and I paid about 480, 500. And then of course they also have singles, which can range from 600 to 800 to 1200. It's completely dependent on where you want to live and just kind of weighing the checks and balances of living on campus versus living a little bit further away, maybe paying a little bit less. There are housing Facebooks that a lot of people use to find places. And I really recommend checking out some of those pages because that's where I see a lot of this information from.
Does anyone else want to add anything?
Yeah, I would like to add to that. So for me personally, this depends on everyone because you might get enough financial aid to cover all your housing, all your tuition, and that would be great. You know, for me, I didn't. So living through on campus, through the campus, was a bit more expensive, but now I found housing where I am on campus, but it's not through UC Davis, so it's less expensive. If anyone would like to look into that, it's called the co-ops, and right now I pay like $465, and I'm in a single. So like, there's always going to be housing options. Trust me, like even if you have to live with someone, like Alyssa said, there's always going to be like cheap housing options. So definitely check out those like Facebook groups and other opportunities on campus.
All right, and then Alyssa also dropped in the chat, $465 for a single is a great deal. Yeah, my daughter has 3 other housemates in their apartment for a 2-bedroom, and she pays around $450 as well. So that's, you know, that's a pretty good deal in Davis. All right, so the next question is, Aubriana wanted to ask if we can see them on camera. No, we cannot see any of the attendees on camera. We're using the webinar feature of Zoom. And also, is there a specific scholarship for environmental science major students? Alyssa, I guess that's you.
So because I get a lot of my financial aid covered by grants, I haven't looked into scholarships too much just because I haven't had the need to, but I do know that there are particular scholarships for like the College of Agriculture, and there's also typically scholarships for each major as well. If you look at your major website, they typically list funding opportunities. Like for wildlife, we have a funding opportunity that will pay you to go to an internship. Like if your internship would just kind of be like a volunteer thing, they would give you a stipend so you can do that internship. And I am assuming that there's also something similar for our environmental science majors as well. Davis is typically pretty good about funding opportunities for our agricultural colleges.
Yeah, definitely check on your department websites if there are any specific scholarships. I know geology has one. Yeah, I'm not sure if any of the other ones have, but I know for sure that geology, and then some programs like Avenue E and Avenue B have scholarships or scholar awards as well. Our next question, this might be a question for Andres, maybe. What if you have unfiled back taxes? Will this affect AB 540 application?
That is a good question. Unfortunately, I don't have an exact answer for it, as the statement of legal residency is something that we really don't cover. It's something more specific to the I guess to the residency deputy. Yeah, I couldn't remember the word. I can provide an email that would go through my the director and the assistant director at the AB 540 and Document Center. If you guys would like to ask, it's like I said, I don't have a clear answer to this question. I wouldn't think it would, but I may be incorrect. I would imagine it would affect your California Dream Act application, but like I said, I can't answer that question, unfortunately. Yeah, but I'll be dropping the email in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful, Andres. Go ahead and include the information about the AB 540 and on the Undocumented Center website. And yes, thank you for that email. And we also have our presenter at 11 o'clock is from the California Student Aid Commission, and that might be a really good question for her to answer. So since she is a professional in that field when it comes to filling out the CADA. All right, our next question is, I have heard from my friend that if an Aggie lives outside campus, for example, at their home, then they provide fuel expenses for their car because they are not living on campus. Is this true?
So that is totally dependent on your individual situation. My first year, I lived off campus and I received some more financial aid. I received about $1,000 more per quarter. But they do take into account travel expenses when calculating the financial aid you will receive. So you do technically get paid for gas or whatever. It's just maybe not as much as you might get for off-campus or on-campus living, because they consider rent to be a little bit more of a higher expense than gas or car maintenance. At least that's the way that I've seen it broken down. Again, it's just totally dependent on your individual financial situation.
All right. Does anybody else have? No, I don't think anybody else commuted from home. Okay, so we will move on to the next question. For the middle class scholarship, do you have to qualify for it every year, or once you have received it, do you get it for the rest of your time at college?
So yeah, so I actually got the scholarship, and you do have to qualify every year. So if one year your parents or your caregiver or whoever you're dependent of makes more than the bracket, which I believe is like, I can't remember, it's on the website. It should be about like 160 or 185 or something like that. If they make above that, any one of those years, you won't get that scholarship for that year. But if they make below that, you will qualify.
So you do have to file the FAFSA or the CADA every year, right, to receive the middle class scholarship.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a co-op for family or couple housing?
For this one, I don't know if there is a co-op for it. I'm not too sure on our co-op's rules on families. I know couples can live here, but I think that like UC Davis had family housing or something. Does anyone know?
Yeah,
we do have student family housing. Oh, go ahead.
they changed it to Solano apartments. I can drop the updated housing information in a second. I have that pulled up.
Yeah, we do have student family housing, and they do consider students who have spouses. They do prioritize students who have dependents, dependents, and but there are different situations that they can accommodate, like spouses, like I said, or even siblings. Yeah, so Thomas will drop the link. Oh, there it is. All right. Our next question, does living on campus cover things like meal plans and Wi-Fi, or do we have to pay for those separately?
So I can take this question since I lived on campus for my first year as a transfer. Um, the meal plan is optional. You can have the option to either have or not have dining services. As for utilities, Wi-Fi, and waste, those are included. So it's quite nice in that if you are getting financial aid, housing on campus will scale. And not only that, because it is guaranteed for 1 year with the option to renew for transfers, it's quite lucrative since coming from a semester to a quarter, we're kind of asynchronous. So it's quite difficult sometimes to find housing, but you're not sure whether or not you're going to get in because you haven't heard back yet, So, but that's out of the scope of the question.
Anybody else want to chime in? Okay, so we'll move to our next question. How and where would we apply for a loan?
So I can take this one and maybe Danny can add later. So I did a subsidized loan through FAFSA. So after I filled out the FAFSA application and I got my financial aid package back from UC Davis, I decided that I wanted to take a little bit more extra money so I wouldn't have to work as much because this is my first year at Davis and I wasn't sure how much I could pile on without being stressed out. So I wanted that little cushion. So after I got my financial aid package, I just went back to the, what do you call it? The webpage that lists all of your options, and you have an option for, do you want to take out a subsidized loan or an unsubsidized loan? And you just say yes. You have to fill out a couple of forms, and you put the amount that you want to take out. And then if the government provided loans aren't enough, you can also apply for private loans, which is a separate program that I have not done.
Does anyone else have experience with loans?
Yeah, so I've done loans too, and I also did the exact same thing as Alyssa. And I also have not done private loans, but I do know that there is a separate process for that. You could get loans through businesses and things like that, but I'm not entirely sure.
I just really want to quickly add something too. Don't take out private loans before you look at the government options. The government loans, like 99% of the time, will have lower interest rates and better payment plans than anything you'll get from a private company. Like if you do need that extra boost and you max out your loans from the government, then you can start looking at private loans. But the government loans are definitely better in the long run.
All right, thank you. Our next question is regarding the SHIP health plan. Can someone elaborate on the UC Davis health plan? Is anyone on SHIP or no?
I am not on SHIP. I was on my parents' health plan until this year, and now I am on Medi-Cal because I'm low income. Financial aid, honestly, will typically cover SHIP, if you get financial aid, of course. And it's a decent healthcare plan. It was just better for me to go through the state government to get my reduced healthcare instead of having to use my grants for it.
Their website has pretty comprehensive information about it. So if maybe we can drop that into the chat too. Oh, Danny, did you want to add anything? No?
I can, but I'm gonna link for anyone who would want to see the co-ops. I'm gonna link the website in the chat.
Okay, perfect.
I dropped down some of the services for SHIP in the link. I do have SHIP, but to the extent that I've used it, it's more so for that, again, that I've been using it has been for counseling services. And right before COVID, I was like, well, I need to see a dentist. So I was trying to look around to see which dentistry could like accept it. And some do. Some private practices do accept SHIP. So.
Okay, our next question, another housing question. Will I be guaranteed housing for the first year I transfer, or do I have to sign up early to get a spot? Yes, housing is guaranteed.
Yes, and if slots are available, you will get prompted to renew come winter quarter, so your second quarter. And that's typical even for off-campus housing.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to emphasize that if you are interested in on-campus housing, after you SIR to Davis, you will have to complete the housing application to reserve your spot in housing.
All right, our next question is, I noticed that most of you first started living on campus, then changed to off campus. Is that financial or educational focus?
So for me, this was entirely educational focused because I wanted to be very close to campus, which through UC Davis, I lived right next to campus. And another way, I also got the meal plan, and that was also educational focused because I didn't know if I was gonna have time to cook and stuff like that. I just wanted to be completely focused on studies and, have the meal plan there for convenience. So for me personally, that was to focus on my education.
Yeah, and to backtrack a little bit, I was hinting about this prior, but the biggest thing is from a semester to a quarter, like we come in the fall and we hear back with the SIR near finals. And so it's like, well, I'm stressing out because I need to fulfill this contract to make sure I pass these classes to get in. So like, I don't want to spend time going to housing and trying to figure that out because I came from Laney in Oakland. So that's like an hour and a half drive. And by the way, I don't have a car because I'm poor. So that's probably like 2 hours train and that's 4 hours, like, so it's like, it's a lot of time spent traveling for something that's not guaranteed unless you have tag. That's like a whole different story. So it's all situational dependent. And so for me, it was like the stress and like reduction of anxiety. Like, okay, I don't have to deal with housing,
I would have done on-campus housing if I didn't already have a friend that was already at Davis and had an apartment and was like, just move in with me. Because getting an apartment late in the game can be very stressful. So I probably would have done on campus, even though it was more expensive, just for peace of mind. And the reason I'm home right now is because of COVID. So it was just easier for me to be at home because everything was online. I would have definitely stayed in my off-campus apartment because it was just easier to go to class and concentrate, just being, a 10-minute bus right away.
I do want to add before we get to the next question that when I made that transition from on campus to off campus, please take note of when that deadline is, like when you have to move out for on campus, because again, it's asynchronous to off campus. And so you have to find like a 1 or 2 month layover lease takeover or like move in with like a friend or something, hopefully. Because starting a new lease renewal for your senior year is asynchronous to when the on-campus term ends. So get ready for that. That was a surprise.
Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I just want to echo what everyone else was sharing. Where the first year really does help being on campus for just because you can focus more on your studies and just really kind of like hone in on like what you need to do and kind of refine your process and all. Yeah, just wanted to add that.
All right, great questions and great answers too. Thank you. Our next question, what is the safe amount to have saved up before transferring to Davis? Oh, that's kind of dependent. That's very relative. In other words, assuming I do not wish to take out loans, how much at minimum do I need to have saved up?
If I may add, and this may indirectly be answering the question, don't be afraid that there's not employment opportunities here as well. Like what Andreas was saying, although there are a lot of funding opportunities as a student, there is also a lot of employment opportunities as well. So don't feel like, oh, I have to save as much money before I can do an undergraduate. I wouldn't worry about that too much. But again, if that's the case where you don't want to be working and you just want to like focus on studies, potentially consider taking 3 years. And this is something that's not uncommon to take 3 years.
I also want to add, it really depends how much, like if you're getting any grants or anything like that, that also takes off the cost of how much you would need to have saved. So I think you can only make that decision after you've had your financial aid package and see how much in scholarships and grants you get to see what's left over so that you don't like, try super hard to save all this money and then turns out you got grants.
Yeah, you'll be surprised how much support if you get financial aid. Or again, like even with me, even though I am getting financial aid, I'm also like doing all these other employment opportunities that are supporting me as well. So the money's there. You just have to be proactive and take the initiative.
So for those of you who receive government loans, when do you start paying those back?
So for subsidized loans, at least, you don't have to start paying until 6 months after graduation. And there are options for pushing that back if there's financial hardship. I don't remember if that's different for or unsubsidized or not. So the difference, in case anybody doesn't know, subsidized loans, interest is not charged until 6 months after graduation or whenever you start full-time employment. And unsubsidized is interest accrues during your time in university. So I don't remember if the payment options are different or not. Danny, if you remember.
So for unsubsidized loans, it's the same where after 6 months after graduation is when you start paying it off, but you do need to start, you don't have to pay the interest while you're in school, but it's better to so that interest doesn't accrue and build up.
All right, so our next question, what sort of expenses are considered to be included for financial aid to cover? Does it consider parking passes, school supplies, other things on top of tuition? Good question.
So I can take that. Yes, it does. Financial aid considers everything that you would possibly need to live. So like they'll even take into account personal expenses, so like food and clothing and leisure, even a little bit. However, the financial aid typically just aims to cover any fees from the school themselves. So unless you're a little bit more low income, it's unlikely that you'll get personal expenses covered. And of course, caveat as always, this is totally dependent on your individual situation. Stuff even like age can change it. When you're 24, you're considered to be independent and you'll usually get more financial aid that way. I'm still only 22, so I'm considered dependent, even though I'm totally financially independent from my parents. But whole other thing there. So yeah, it does. I wouldn't necessarily count on having a lot left over though. So definitely look into stuff like work study if you are worried about those expenses.
Anyone else want to share?
I think it's worth mentioning as well, asking around about fee waivers, if applicable. You know, like one of the biggest things is just asking, and what they'll just say no, but maybe they'll say yes. You won't know until you ask.
Could you please provide more information regarding sibling housing? So earlier we mentioned about student family housing, and the sibling housing, both you and your sibling need to be students at UC Davis, as far as I know. But we did drop the link for housing, for student family housing. So feel free to contact our student housing office to get more information and find out how that works. Next question is, when we receive our financial aid package, does our award automatically apply to our bill?
Yes, it will take, if you have less than the actual amount, so like our tuition, I think is like $13,000 or something. If you only get $10,000, it'll apply all that $10,000 to your bill, and you'll have to pay what's left over. And if you have more than the tuition and fees, then you'll get a little bit back. So all the financial aid from the university or from the government will automatically apply to your bill. You can't just take it out of like an account or anything like that.
I do want to add on what Alyssa was hinting at when you get it back. If you see a negative number, that's good. That means you get it. So don't freak out like I did.
And do you pay your tuition every quarter? Is it for the entire year?
Yes, we're all charges are processed quarterly, so you won't have to pay $13,000 right off the bat. No, you pay it in like $4,000 increments or something like that.
Yeah, and then you can also do a payment plan where it's broken up into, I think, 3 times a quarter. You can like spread out those payments if you don't have the 4,000 or however much at the beginning of the quarter.
Additionally, as it relates to on-campus housing, that fee scales, and so that will also be automatically deducted. There's also like no worries there, and so that will also be on a quarterly rolling basis as well.
And why would one need to have incremental payments throughout the quarter? Is it because maybe some financial aid is dispersed later than the deadline for fees, maybe?
I'm not too sure, but I've heard that some, for sure, scholarships get dispersed afterwards. So that's probably why, right?
And there's also a student is just paying for it like straight out of pocket without loans. They may need a little bit more time just to bring in that extra money through work or what have you.
Okay, so do you have to have medical insurance as a UC Davis student?
Yes, you need proof of insurance, whether private or SHIP or government. You have to have medical insurance.
Ooh, okay. Also, if you don't, I know this is like a weird time, but like when we were pre-COVID, I didn't realize you're supposed to have all these vaccines before you come in. And I know this sounds really bad, but like I was freaking out because I was like, oh crap, no one told me this. So like 2 months before, I got like all my shots to get in. So don't forget about your vaccines.
Wow.
There's a list too, so you have a list of reference. You have
I'll
to have
find. Yeah.
flu shots now, I think started this year as well. So you have to get that done every single year.
Yeah, also just know that if you do not have private insurance or any kind of insurance, you will have to sign up for UC SHIP.
Mhm. We did drop the link for SHIP on the chat earlier, but maybe we can put that in there again, just for reference. Does the meal plan provide 2 or 3 meals every day? I heard conflicting reports on how many meals a student receives per day.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I did a meal plan that was like 7 days, and so that was like unlimited, right? Like they do it buffet style. I know some students, like some of my friends, they do it as a swipe system, so it's kind of like you pre-purchase swipes on your Aggie ID card, and then you can swipe a meal in, and then once you're in, again, it's buffet style. So um, when we say 2 or 3 meals, it's more so like you check in and you can sit in there in the dining commons, as long as you want during those meal times, and as long as you checked in and stay, you can eat as much as you want all day.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They may have changed it because the last time I had a meal plan was last winter. And when I was there, it was if you got the traditional meal plan, which either 5 or 7 days, you could go in as many times as you wanted with your swipes. I don't know if it's still the same way. It is, yeah.
It's
It
the
is,
same.
yeah.
Okay.
And at this time, they have boxed meals, so students can bring it back to their dorm rooms or apartment.
Also to mention, having a meal plan, I think we also get swipes that we can use at, oh gosh, it's been so long. One of like the little shops nearby, like little cafe shops, you can use, in addition to your meal plan, they give you swipes that you can use there. Or you can be a good friend like I was, and you can swipe your friends in.
Yeah, so it's called Aggie Cash. I think you could put more Aggie Cash on your card, but it's basically just cash loaded onto your card. I think they give some to you with your dining plan either way. And so you could go to like they're kind of like convenience stores. They have like medicine, like Advil and stuff like that, but like food and popcorn and drinks and meals and stuff like that. So you can go into those convenience stores and use your Aggie Cash, which is your regular dining meal card.
Okay, so our next question, will classes resume in person in the fall?
As far as I'm aware, that's the plan. Yeah, we aren't going back this year or summer, but I think the plan is for fall to be in person. Of course, sure, that can easily change.
I do think the most up-to-date information regarding that is how far along we are in terms of herd immunity. So Dr. Fauci projected like that sometime in fall, but that's still optimistic, right? So who knows? Thanks, COVID.
That all depends on the health, county and state health department and what the guidelines are at that point. But we, as Alyssa said, we are planning for in-person instruction come fall 2021. Can you explain the difference between the semester layout when you say Davis is quarterly compared to community college layout?
Yeah, I think for one, in the semester, we have 16 weeks-ish, whereas in quarter, we have 10. So like that's a glaring difference there. In hindsight, one of the pros to that is, a 3-unit class in semester converts, 1.5 to quarter. So in some regards, you'll find that your community college GPA actually is a quite nice buffer to your UC Davis GPA, should that time come, for your overall GPA. But in terms of the layout, let's see, hopefully someone else can elaborate besides that. I've found that because of that time frame, things are just more dense. And so typical like study sessions are often, I feel, doubled when I came here. So let's say you study like 20 hours a week, and typically I feel that it's often 40 at least now. So basically things get doubled to account for that time reduction.
Anyone else want to add to that? Difference between semester and quarter system. All right, so time check, it's 10:45. We'll take a couple more questions and then we will wrap up. We have a question about the Pell Grant. I know the Pell Grant award varies to individuals and circumstances and finances, but what are some values you have heard of people receiving?
So I can take that. I saw this question. I actually just pulled up my winter quarter breakdown. So for winter quarter, the tuition was $4,865 plus a bit more in cents. And for that, half of that was essentially just the Pell Grant. And I'm very low income, which is why all my tuition is covered. So if you are also very low income, Pell Grant will cover quite a bit. And then typically Davis will cover the rest. So I have about half in Pell Grant and then half is a university grant, which is the Blue and Gold program. So it can be a lot, it can be little. Previously, I think I only got like $600 from the Pell Grant because I made a little bit more the year before. So it can vary for sure.
Okay, and then the last question I'm going to take before we wrap up, how can we apply for EOP for UC Davis specifically? So that was on the UC application that you submitted back in November or early December. That was part of the UC application. You had to check a box and write a short statement as to why you're interested in the EOP program and how it would benefit you. If you did not click on that box and write a statement, then you can contact the undergraduate admissions office and provide us with your reason for wanting to be part of the EOP program, and it will be up for consideration by our admissions EOP office. All right, so for, I guess, I mentioned this earlier, but some of you were not logged in, but for all of you who are not aware, like I said, we are in week 2 of winter quarter here at UC Davis. So please give a round of applause to our students, a virtual round of applause to our students, Danny, Alyssa, Thomas, and Andres. Thank you so much for sharing your precious time with us this morning and for all the valuable information about how you navigated through the various ways of paying for your UC Davis education and many more. So thank you. All right, so in closing, just a quick reminder, our program will be sending out a follow-up email for evaluation. It will be sent to you once we have concluded the Financial Literacy Week webinars. Any feedback you can provide us, even kudos, would greatly help our programming for next year. Use the next couple of minutes to stand up, take a stretch break, replenish your water, take a bio break, and then please log back in to join us in our next and final session for Top Financial Literacy Week. We have a special guest from the California Student Aid Commission to talk about FAFSA and CADA. And thank you all and have a great day. See you all later.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.